Marcus Thompson adjusted his tie for the 5th time, staring at his reflection in the restaurant's glass door. The Mediterranean grill looked fancy enough to impress, but not so fancy that his teacher's salary would leave him eating ramen for the next month. His sister Emma had insisted this blind date was exactly what he needed after his divorce 6 months ago. Just be yourself, she had said. Easy for her to say. Emma was the successful lawyer with the perfect husband and the perfect life. Marcus taught 8th grade science to kids who thought volcanoes were boring, and gravity was optional. The hostess, a tall woman with pointed ears and silver hair, smiled warmly as he approached. Marcus had grown used to the various alien species that had integrated into Earth society after first contact 15 years ago. The Valdari were known for their hospitality industry, their empathic abilities making them excellent at reading customer needs. "Marcus Thompson?" she asked, her voice carrying a melodic accent. "Your party is already seated. Right this way." Marcus followed her through the dimly lit restaurant, past tables where humans, Valdari, and even a few of the crystalline Zephyrians shared meals and conversation. The sight still amazed him sometimes. 15 years ago, humanity thought they were alone in the universe. Now his neighbor was a friendly Aquarian who helped him fix his plumbing with tentacles that could reach impossible angles. "There she is," the hostess said, gesturing to a corner booth. Marcus's date sat with her back to him, auburn hair falling in gentle waves over her shoulders. She wore a simple black dress that suggested elegance without trying too hard. As he approached, she turned and smiled, and Marcus felt his nervousness spike. She was beautiful, but more than that, there was something in her green eyes that seemed ancient and knowing. "You must be Marcus," she said, extending a hand. "I'm Diana. Emma has told me so much about you." Her handshake was firm, her skin surprisingly warm. Marcus slid into the booth across from her, grateful that the dim lighting might hide his nervous sweating. "All good things. I hope," he managed, immediately cringing at how generic that sounded. Diana laughed. "A sound like silver bells. She mentioned you're a science teacher. I find that fascinating. What's your favorite subject to teach?" Marcus relaxed slightly. Teaching was something he could talk about. Astronomy, definitely. There's something about showing kids the scale of the universe that just changes them, you know? Especially now that we know we're not alone out there. "And what do you think about our new neighbors?" Diana asked, her eyes twinkling with what might have been amusement. "Honestly, I think it's incredible. I mean, the Valdari have emotions we can't even comprehend. The Aquarians see in spectrums we didn't know existed, and the Zephyrians communicate through crystalline resonance. It makes you realize how limited our perspective was." Diana nodded thoughtfully. "Most humans seem to find the adjustment challenging." "Some do," Marcus admitted. "But I think that's fear talking. Fear of the unknown. As a teacher, I see it differently. It's like the universe just became the biggest classroom imaginable." The waiter, a young human with nervous energy, approached their table. "Can I start you folks with some drinks?" "Wine?" Diana suggested. "The house red is supposed to be excellent." Marcus nodded, though he usually stuck to beer. Tonight called for a little sophistication. As the waiter scurried away, Diana leaned forward slightly. "Emma mentioned you're recently divorced. I hope that's not too personal to discuss." Marcus sighed. "No, it's fine. Sarah and we just grew apart. She wanted stability, predictability. I wanted adventure, discovery. When first contact happened, I was fascinated. Sarah was terrified. We spent the next 14 years growing in opposite directions. That must have been difficult." "It was. But maybe it was necessary. I spent so long trying to be what she needed that I forgot who I was." Marcus paused, surprised at his own honesty. "Sorry, that's probably too heavy for a first date." "Not at all," Diana said softly. "Authenticity is rare. Most people hide behind masks, especially on first dates." The wine arrived, and Marcus took a larger sip than he intended. The alcohol helped quiet his nerves, but Diana's intense gaze made him feel like she was reading his soul. "What about you?" he asked. "Emma was mysterious about your background." Diana's smile faltered for just a moment. "I'm between careers right now. I've been traveling a lot, studying different cultures. Human culture is particularly fascinating." "Studying how?" "Anthropology, you could say, though my methods are somewhat unconventional." Before Marcus could ask what that meant, a commotion erupted from the restaurant's entrance. A family of Aquarians was arguing with the hostess in their native tongue, which sounded like dolphins having a philosophical debate underwater. The discussion seemed heated, with tentacles gesturing wildly. Language barrier, Marcus observed. Even with the translation devices, nuance gets lost. Diana watched the scene intently, tilting her head as if listening to something Marcus couldn't hear. Suddenly she stood and walked over to the Aquarian family. Marcus watched in amazement as she began speaking their language fluently, her voice taking on the melodic, flowing tones of Aquarian speech. Whatever she said calmed the situation immediately. The family's tentacles relaxed and they began following the hostess to their table. Diana returned to the booth as if nothing unusual had happened. "How did you—" Marcus started. "I told you I've been studying cultures," Diana said with a mysterious smile. "Languages are part of that. But Aquarian is supposed to be almost impossible for humans to speak. The vocal structures required—" Diana's eyes glinted with something that might have been amusement. "I have a talent for languages." Marcus stared at her, his scientific mind racing. Aquarian speech required precise control of tone, pitch, and harmonic resonance that human vocal cords simply couldn't produce. Yet Diana had spoken it like a native. "You're not entirely human, are you?" he asked quietly. Diana's expression grew serious. She reached across the table and placed her hand over his. The warmth that radiated from her touch was definitely not normal human body temperature. "Would that bother you?" she asked. Marcus looked into her eyes, those green depths that seemed to hold secrets older than civilization itself. Most people would probably run. Most people would be terrified. But Marcus Thompson had spent his life studying the wonders of the universe, and wonder was what he felt now. "No," he said finally. "I think it would be extraordinary." Diana smiled then, a real smile that transformed her entire face. "Good," she said, "because this evening is about to become much more interesting than either of us expected." As if summoned by her words, a sound echoed from the restaurant's back alley. It was soft, almost inaudible, but it made every alien in the restaurant stop eating and turn toward the sound. It was the cry of something very young, very lost, and very definitely not from Earth. Diana's eyes widened with what looked like recognition and concern. "We need to go," she said urgently. "Now." Marcus didn't hesitate. Something in Diana's urgent tone bypassed his logical mind and went straight to his instincts. He threw money on the table and followed her toward the restaurant's back exit, weaving between tables of concerned alien patrons who were all listening to that strange, otherworldly crying. The alley behind the Mediterranean grill was narrow and dimly lit, filled with the usual urban detritus of dumpsters and fire escapes. But the sound was louder here, more distinct. It wasn't quite a cry and wasn't quite a song. Marcus had never heard anything like it. Yet something deep in his chest responded to it with an ache he couldn't explain. "There," Diana whispered, pointing to a cluster of garbage bins near the restaurant's back door. Marcus squinted in the poor light and saw movement. Something small and dark shifted between the containers, making soft sounds of distress. As his eyes adjusted, he could make out a shape about the size of a house cat, but wrong somehow. The proportions were off, the movements too fluid. Diana approached slowly, her hands raised in a gesture of peace. She began speaking in a language Marcus didn't recognize, but the sounds were warm and soothing. The crying stopped, replaced by curious chirping noises. "What is it?" Marcus whispered. "Trouble," Diana said simply. "Big trouble." She knelt beside the dumpster and extended her hand. After a moment of hesitation, the creature emerged from the shadows. Marcus's breath caught in his throat. It was definitely not from Earth, and definitely not like any of the known alien species that had made contact with humanity. The creature looked like someone had taken a lizard, given it wings, and then compressed it down to the size of a small dog. Its scales shifted color in the dim light, cycling through deep blues and purples with hints of silver. Its eyes were large and intelligent, ancient-looking despite the creature's obvious youth. When it spread its wings, Marcus could see translucent membranes shot through with veins that pulsed with soft bioluminescence. "Is that—" Marcus started but couldn't finish the sentence. It was too incredible to say out loud. "A dragon," Diana confirmed, her voice heavy with implications. "A very young one." The baby dragon looked up at Diana with trust and relief, chirping in what was clearly an attempt at communication. She responded in that unknown language, her tone gentle but concerned. The dragon's attention then turned to Marcus, and he felt a strange sensation as those ancient eyes studied him. Then the impossible happened. The dragon opened its mouth and spoke a single word in perfect, crystal clear English. Marcus. Marcus stumbled backward, his mind reeling. How does it know my name? Diana's expression had gone from concerned to deeply troubled. That's what I'm afraid of, she said. Dragons don't just learn names. They know things. Important things. The baby dragon waddled over to Marcus, looking up at him with what could only be described as expectation. It chirped again, then repeated his name with more confidence. Marcus. Marcus, help. This is insane, Marcus muttered, but he found himself kneeling down to the dragon's level. I'm a science teacher from suburban Maryland. I don't help dragons. I don't even know dragons exist. Diana moved to stand beside him. Marcus, I need to tell you something. About who I am, about why I'm here, and about why this little one knowing your name is either the best possible thing that could happen, or the worst. Before she could continue, the sound of approaching vehicles filled the alley. Not police cars or ambulances, but something with a deeper, more powerful engine note. Diana's expression shifted to alarm. They found us faster than I expected, she said grimly. Marcus, I need you to trust me completely right now. Can you do that? Marcus looked at the beautiful, mysterious woman who had just revealed she wasn't human. Then at the baby dragon that somehow knew his name. Then at the approaching lights that were definitely not friendly. His logical mind was screaming that this was insane, but his instincts were telling him to trust Diana absolutely. Yeah, he heard himself say. I can do that. Diana smiled, and for a moment her human appearance flickered like a projection with a loose connection. Underneath, Marcus caught a glimpse of something magnificent and terrifying. Scales that shifted like liquid starlight, eyes that held the wisdom of millennia, and an aura of power that made the air itself thrum with energy. Hold the baby, she said, scooping up the dragon and pressing it into Marcus's arms. Whatever happens, don't let go. The dragon settled against Marcus's chest with surprising trust, its small body warm and surprisingly heavy. It looked up at him again and whispered, Marcus safe. Marcus important. Important for what? Marcus asked, but Diana was already moving. The vehicles had reached the mouth of the alley. Marcus could see them now, black SUVs with government plates and windows too dark to see through. Men in suits were getting out, and they carried devices Marcus didn't recognize but that hummed with obvious technological sophistication. Diana stepped between Marcus and the approaching agents, and her human disguise fell away completely. She stood nearly 7 feet tall, her skin the color of burnished gold with patterns of deeper bronze that seemed to move in the light. Her hair had become a mane of copper fire, and when she spread her arms, massive wings unfurled from her back. Well, Marcus said to the baby dragon, I guess I know what Diana really is now. The baby dragon chirped agreement and snuggled closer to him. Diana protect. Marcus protect. All protect. The lead agent raised some kind of scanning device and called out in a voice amplified by technology. Registered extraterrestrial entity designate Aurelia 7. You are in violation of galactic monitoring protocols. Surrender the hatchling and the human male immediately. Diana, or Aurelia apparently, laughed, and the sound was like wind through crystal caverns. Galactic monitoring protocols? Is that what you're calling kidnapping these days? The hatchling is a Category 5 entity, the agent responded. Its presence on Earth without proper containment represents a significant threat to planetary security. This hatchling is a child, Diana shot back, her voice echoing with power. And the human is under my protection. Marcus felt like he was having an out-of-body experience. Galactic monitoring protocols? Category 5 entities? This was definitely not how he had imagined his evening going. Why me? He whispered to the baby dragon. Why do you know my name? The dragon looked up at him with those impossibly ancient eyes, and spoke in a voice much older than its apparent age. Because you teach children to dream of stars. Because you show them universes big and beautiful, not scary. Because when scared humans learn you are kind, they learn all dragons might be kind too. Marcus stared down at the small creature in his arms. You're not just lost, are you? You came here looking for me specifically. The dragon nodded solemnly. Many dragons in trouble. Need human friend to speak for us. Need teacher who understands big universe has room for everyone. The implications hit Marcus like a freight train. This wasn't just a chance encounter. The baby dragon had sought him out, had somehow known he would help. But how? Diana was still facing down the government agents. Her wings spread in a display of intimidation that was clearly working. The agents had stopped advancing but hadn't retreated either. "Marcus," she called without turning around. "I need to know. Are you willing to help this little one find its family? It's dangerous and it will change your life forever." Marcus looked down at the baby dragon, which was watching him with hopeful eyes. He thought about his quiet life teaching kids about the wonders of space. He thought about his ex-wife, who would definitely consider this the kind of dangerous unpredictability she had left him to avoid. He thought about Emma, who would probably have him committed if she knew what he was considering. Then he thought about 13 years of teaching children that the universe was vast and full of possibilities. That curiosity was more important than fear, and that knowledge was always worth pursuing even when it was scary. "Yeah," he said, surprising himself with the steadiness of his voice. "Let's find your family." The baby dragon chirped with joy and nuzzled against his neck. Diana turned to flash him a brilliant smile that made his heart skip a beat. "In that case," she said, "hold on tight. We're about to take a shortcut." Before Marcus could ask what kind of shortcut, Diana's wings began to glow with the same bioluminescence as the baby dragon's. The air around them started to shimmer, and Marcus realized they were about to find out just how extraordinary this evening could get. The world dissolved around Marcus in a cascade of light and impossible geometry. One moment he was standing in a grimy alley behind a restaurant. The next he was somewhere else entirely. The transition felt like being turned inside out and reassembled, but gentler than it sounded, as if the universe itself was being careful with him. When reality solidified again, Marcus found himself on a crystalline platform suspended in what appeared to be deep space. Stars wheeled overhead in patterns he didn't recognize, and nebulae painted the cosmic backdrop in colors that had no names. The platform itself seemed to be made of the same translucent material as the baby dragon's wings, pulsing gently with internal light. "Welcome to the Nexus," Diana said, her voice carrying clearly despite the apparent vacuum around them. "Neutral territory. The government agents won't be able to follow us here." Marcus looked around in wonder, still clutching the baby dragon to his chest. "How am I breathing? How is any of this possible?" Diana gestured to the platform beneath their feet. "Dragon technology. They've been building bridges between dimensions for millions of years. This platform exists in a pocket of folded spacetime where the normal rules are negotiable." The baby dragon chirped and wiggled in Marcus's arms, pointing with one tiny claw toward a structure in the distance. As Marcus's eyes adjusted to the strange light, he could see it more clearly. It was a massive construct that seemed to be part grown crystal and part engineered architecture, stretching away into the void like a city designed by artists who had never heard of straight lines. "That's Haven," Diana explained. "Refugee city. Dragons who've escaped from various worlds gather here when they have nowhere else to go." "Escape from what?" Diana's expression darkened. "That's complicated. Marcus, there are things about the galaxy that Earth's government doesn't want humans to know. Things about why certain species really made contact with humanity, and what they're actually after." As they walked across the crystalline platform toward Haven, Diana began to explain. The story she told turned everything Marcus thought he knew about first contact upside down. 15 years ago, when the Valdari, Aquarians, and Zephyrians arrived, Earth's leaders thought they were the lucky recipients of friendly first contact. What they didn't know was that these species weren't explorers or diplomats. They were miners. "Miners?" Marcus asked, confused. "Not for minerals or metals," Diana said grimly. "For something much more valuable. Imagination." The baby dragon in Marcus's arms made a soft, sad sound and snuggled closer. Diana reached over to stroke its small head gently. "Dragons are creatures of pure creative energy," she continued. "We dream and reality reshapes itself around those dreams. It's how we build things like this platform, how we travel between stars without ships, how we've survived for millions of years. But there's a cost to using that kind of power." They reached the entrance to Haven, where towering gates made of what looked like crystallized music stood open. As they passed through, Marcus gasped at what he saw inside. The city was populated by dragons of every size and description. Some were massive, with wingspans that could shadow city blocks. Others were human-sized like Diana, and still others were small like the baby in his arms. Their scales ranged through every color Marcus could imagine, and several he was pretty sure he couldn't. They moved through the air as easily as walking, their wings carrying them along currents of energy that were visible as streams of soft light. "It's incredible," Marcus breathed. "It's dying," Diana said sadly. "Every generation of dragons born is weaker than the last. Our creative fire is dimming and we don't know why." They landed on a wide plaza where a crowd of dragons had gathered around what appeared to be some kind of council meeting. The dragons were speaking in that musical language Diana had used earlier, but Marcus found he could understand fragments of it now, as if proximity to so many dragons was awakening some dormant part of his mind. "That's why the other species came to Earth," Diana continued. "Humans are the first species they've encountered that has dragon-level imagination, but mortal lifespans. Your minds burn bright and fast, generating enormous amounts of creative energy." Marcus felt a chill of understanding. They're harvesting us. Not directly. They're studying human creativity, trying to understand how to synthesize it. The Valdari use their empathic abilities to analyze human emotions during peak creative moments. The Aquarians map the neural patterns associated with artistic inspiration. The Zephyrians record and analyze the harmonic resonances of human consciousness during breakthrough moments. The baby dragon in Marcus's arms chirped softly and said, "Humans' dreams taste like starlight. Dragons need starlight to live." Diana nodded grimly. "What this little one is trying to say is that human imagination produces the same kind of energy that dragons feed on. But if the other species figure out how to artificially replicate that energy, they won't need humans anymore," Marcus finished. "And they definitely won't need dragons." "Exactly. And that's why this little one sought you out specifically." The crowd of dragons in the plaza had noticed their arrival. Several of the larger ones approached, their expressions a mixture of hope and desperation. When they saw the baby dragon in Marcus's arms, excited chittering broke out among them. An ancient dragon, her scales the color of deep space shot through with silver stars, glided over to them. When she spoke, her voice carried the weight of eons. "So, the hatchling found the teacher." Marcus looked confused. "How do you know I'm a teacher?" The ancient dragon smiled, revealing teeth like crystallized moonlight. "Child, we have been dreaming of you for years. Every night this little one showed us visions of a human who taught younglings to love the stars instead of fear them. A human who would understand that knowledge and wonder are more powerful than any weapon." The baby dragon looked up at Marcus and said, "Show them, Marcus. Show them human dreams." "I don't understand." "Show them what?" Diana placed a gentle hand on his shoulder. "Marcus, you've spent 13 years teaching children to dream of space travel, of alien civilizations, of the infinite possibilities of the universe. Those dreams have power here. Dragon power works through shared imagination." The ancient dragon nodded sagely. "The other species mine human creativity for their own purposes. But dragons share it. We dream together, and those shared dreams become reality." Marcus looked around at the gathering crowd of dragons, all watching him with expectant eyes. "You want me to, what, dream with you?" "We want you to teach us," the ancient dragon said. "Teach us how humans imagine the future. Show us how your species turns dreams into plans. How you make the impossible seem achievable. Help us understand why human imagination burns so bright." The baby dragon wiggled in Marcus's arms and pointed toward the center of the plaza, where a shallow depression in the crystalline floor began to glow with warm light. "Dream Circle," Diana explained. "If you're willing to try, we can link your consciousness with theirs temporarily. Share your memories of teaching, of inspiring students to reach for the stars." Marcus looked at the assembled dragons, then down at the small creature that had somehow found him across impossible distances because it believed he could help. He thought about his students, about the moment when a child's face lit up with understanding, about the joy of opening young minds to the vastness of the universe. "What exactly would happen to me?" he asked. "Nothing harmful," Diana assured him. "You'll experience what it's like to think like a dragon for a few minutes, and they'll experience what it's like to be human. It's an exchange, not a taking." The ancient dragon spoke again, her voice gentle. "Young teacher, your species stands at a crossroads. The path your leaders have chosen leads to exploitation and eventual extinction, but there is another path, one where humans and dragons work together to explore the infinite possibilities of existence." Marcus made his decision the way he always did when it mattered, by thinking about his students. What would he tell them if they were here? Would he tell them to be afraid of the unknown, or to embrace the chance to learn something that could change everything? Okay, he said, walking toward the glowing circle. Let's try sharing some dreams. As he stepped into the circle with the baby dragon still in his arms, Marcus felt the minds of dozens of ancient, powerful beings opening to welcome him. The sensation was overwhelming but not frightening. It felt like coming home to a family he'd never known he was missing. The last thing he was conscious of as an individual human was the baby dragon's voice in his mind. No longer small and childlike, but vast and wise. Thank you, Marcus Thompson. Now let us show you what humans and dragons can accomplish together. Then his consciousness exploded outward into a shared dream that encompassed stars and time and infinite possibility, and Marcus understood why this meeting had been inevitable from the moment he first looked up at the night sky and wondered what was out there. Marcus existed in a space between thoughts where memory and imagination flowed like liquid starlight. Through the dragon mind link, he experienced what it felt like to dream reality into existence, to touch the fundamental forces of creation with nothing but will and wonder. But more importantly, he felt the dragons experiencing his human memories, seeing through his eyes as he watched children discover the magic of learning. In the shared mind space, Marcus found himself standing in his classroom, but it had been transformed. The walls were transparent crystal overlooking a vista of spinning galaxies. His students were there, but they weren't alone. Young dragons perched beside them, their scales shimmering with excitement as they absorbed every word. The universe is 13.8 billion years old, Marcus heard himself saying, but his voice carried harmonics that made the words visible in the air as patterns of light. That's billions of years of stars being born, living, dying, and creating the elements that make up everything we see. A girl named Sarah, one of his brightest students, raised her hand. But Mr. Thompson, if the universe is that old and there are so many stars, why didn't we meet aliens until I was little? In the shared dream, Marcus felt the ancient dragon's attention focus intensely on this question and his answer. Because space is bigger than we can really understand, he replied. And suddenly the classroom expanded to show them the true scale of the galaxy. And because maybe, just maybe, everyone was waiting for the right time. The baby dragon's consciousness brushed against his.
Show them more, Marcus.
Show them how you make them believe they can touch the stars. So Marcus shared more memories. The time he built a functioning model rocket with his 6th grade class, and they watched it disappear into the sky, carrying their hopes with it. The night he brought students to the school roof to watch the Perseid meteor shower, and quiet Tommy Martinez whispered, "It's like the universe is saying hello." The dragons drank in these experiences with a hunger that wasn't greedy but desperate. Through their ancient minds, Marcus felt their desperation, their slowly fading connection to the creative forces that had sustained them for eons. They were dying not from any disease or violence, but from a kind of spiritual starvation. Then the dragons began sharing their memories with him, and Marcus understood why his human imagination was so vital to them. He experienced the birth of their species in the heart of dying stars, where the laws of physics were more like gentle suggestions. He felt what it was like to build cities by dreaming them into existence, to travel between worlds by imagining the distance didn't matter. He saw the golden age of dragon civilization, when they had shared the galaxy with hundreds of species that celebrated creativity and wonder. And he saw the change, the slow decline that began when other species discovered that dragon power could be harvested, studied, replicated artificially. He witnessed the great wars fought not with weapons but with competing visions of reality. He felt the sorrow of watching species after species choose the path of taking, rather than sharing, of exploitation rather than cooperation. "That's why the baby found you," Diana's voice echoed in the shared mind space. "You represent something we thought was lost, a species that hasn't yet chosen which path to take." Marcus found himself back in the Crystal Plaza, but now he could perceive it as the dragons did. The city wasn't built from any material substance but from crystallized dreams and hopes. Every surface reflected not light but possibilities, showing endless variations of what could be. "The other species think they can capture our power in machines," the ancient dragon said, her voice heavy with sadness. "They don't understand that creativity cannot be imprisoned. It can only be shared freely or it dies." Marcus looked around at the gathered dragons, seeing them now with enhanced perception. Each one was a library of wonders, a living repository of dreams made real. But their light was dimming, their colors fading to gray at the edges. "What can I do?" he asked. I'm just one person. The baby dragon squirmed in his arms and looked up at him with ancient wisdom. Not one person. First person. First human to choose sharing over taking. I don't understand. Diana materialized beside him, her true dragon form magnificent in the crystalline light. Marcus, humans are the first species we've encountered that has dragon-level imagination, but hasn't yet made the civilizational choice between creativity and control. Your government thinks they're managing first contact, but they don't realize they're being systematically studied and prepared for harvest. The Valdari, Aquarians and Zephyrians are documenting every aspect of human creative potential, the ancient dragon added. But they've made a crucial mistake. They assume all humans will react like their governments, choosing security over wonder, control over possibility. Marcus felt a chill of understanding. They're planning something. A demonstration, Diana confirmed. They're going to show Earth's leaders artificial dragons, mechanical beings that can replicate our abilities without the inconvenience of independent thought or moral considerations. They'll offer this technology in exchange for exclusive access to human creativity. The baby dragon's voice was small but determined. But if humans choose dragons as friends instead of machines as tools, everything changes. How? The ancient dragon smiled, and suddenly Marcus could see the full scope of their plan. Because, teacher, you have something very precious. You have students who trust you, young humans whose minds are still open to infinite possibilities. In the shared mind space, Marcus saw visions of what could be, children and young dragons learning together. Human imagination combining with dragon wisdom to create wonders beyond anything either species could accomplish alone. He saw cities that were part built and part dreamed, starships that traveled on currents of pure possibility, and a future where creativity was the most valued currency in the galaxy. But it has to start with choice, Diana said. Free choice made with full knowledge of both paths. Marcus understood now why the baby dragon had sought him out specifically. Teachers were the key, not politicians or military leaders or scientists, but the people who shaped young minds, who showed children what was possible. You want me to go back, he said, to tell people what I've learned. We want you to do what you do best, the ancient dragon said. Teach. Show your students that the universe is vast and full of friends they haven't met yet. Help them choose wonder over fear. The baby dragon looked up at him seriously. But Marcus must choose too. Go back to small life or stay and learn dragon ways. Both paths have value, but only one saves both our species. Marcus felt the weight of the decision. His quiet life as a suburban science teacher seemed incredibly distant now. But he thought about his students, about Emma, who had set up this blind date thinking she was helping him find romance, about all the humans who were going about their daily lives unaware that their entire future hung in the balance. If I go back, what exactly am I supposed to do? Walk into the Pentagon and tell them I've been having tea with dragons? Diana laughed, the sound like crystal chimes in a soft breeze. Nothing that dramatic. Just continue being yourself. Continue teaching children to love the stars. But now you'll have help. She gestured to the baby dragon, who chirped excitedly. This little one wants to come with you. Dragons have always been part of human mythology because a few of us have visited your world before, inspiring your stories and legends. It's time to make those legends real again. Marcus looked down at the small creature in his arms, imagining trying to explain to his principal why he was bringing a dragon to school. I don't think Earth is ready for this. That's exactly why it's the perfect time, the ancient dragon said. Change happens when people aren't ready for it. When they're comfortable, they have no reason to grow. The baby dragon nuzzled against Marcus's cheek and whispered, Please, Marcus, need to be with humans who dream. Need to learn how to make dreams real again. Marcus closed his eyes and made his choice the way he always did, by imagining what he would tell his students to do in his place. When he opened them again, he was smiling. Okay, he said. Let's go teach the universe something new about cooperation. The assembled dragons erupted in harmonious song, their voices creating visible waves of joy that rippled through the crystalline city. As the celebration continued around them, Diana leaned close to Marcus's ear. I should probably mention, she said with a grin that was both dragon and woman, this is definitely going to be more complicated than a normal relationship. Marcus laughed, surprising himself. Diana, after tonight, I don't think I even remember what normal feels like. Good, she said, her eyes sparkling with mischief and ancient wisdom. Because normal is highly overrated? The transition back to Earth felt different this time. Instead of the disorienting dissolution Marcus had experienced before, the journey felt like riding a current of pure possibility. The baby dragon, who had told Marcus to call him Spark, sat comfortably in his arms, occasionally pointing at interesting dimensional landmarks as they passed through folded space. They materialized not in the alley behind the restaurant, but in Marcus's own backyard. The familiar sight of his small suburban home looked surreal after the crystalline wonders of Haven. Diana had shifted back to her human appearance, though Marcus could still see hints of her true nature in the way light seemed to gather around her. "The government agents will be looking for us," Diana said, scanning the quiet neighborhood. "But they won't expect us to return to your normal life. Hiding in plain sight is sometimes the best strategy." Marcus looked down at Spark, who was eagerly examining everything with bright, curious eyes. "How exactly do I hide a dragon?" "Even a small one," Spark chirped and suddenly shimmered. To Marcus's amazement, the dragon's appearance shifted until he looked like a perfectly ordinary iguana, complete with the slightly bored expression that pet reptiles were famous for. "Shape-shifting is basic dragon ability," Spark explained, though his voice now had a slight lisp due to the iguana tongue. "Humans see what they expect to see." Diana smiled. "Elementary school teachers bring class pets home all the time. No one will think twice about you having an iguana." They went inside and Marcus made coffee while trying to process everything that had happened. His kitchen looked exactly the same as it had that morning, but he felt like a completely different person. The mundane details of his life, his bills on the counter, his lesson plans spread across the dining room table, seemed to belong to someone else. "So what's the plan?" he asked, handing Diana a cup of coffee. "How do we save two species from exploitation without anyone noticing?" "We start small," Diana said. "You go back to teaching, but now you have a very special assistant. Spark here is young, but he has access to the collective memory of his species. He can share knowledge that will make your lessons extraordinary." Spark, still in iguana form, climbed onto the table and pointed at Marcus's lesson plans with one clawed foot. "Tomorrow you teach about solar system. But human books have mistakes. Spark knows real Mars, real Jupiter, can show students what planets really look like up close." Marcus picked up his astronomy unit plan, seeing it with new eyes. "You're talking about more than just education. You want me to prepare them." "For what's coming," Diana confirmed. "The other species are planning to make their move soon. They'll offer Earth's leaders artificial dragon technology in exchange for unlimited access to human creativity. When that happens, every human will have to choose between a safe, controlled future and an uncertain but limitless one." Marcus understood. Children who had been raised to see the universe as a place of wonder and possibility would make very different choices than children who had been taught to fear the unknown. "What about you?" he asked Diana. "Where do you fit into this?" Diana's expression grew complicated. "I'm what you might call a deep cover operative. I've been living on Earth for 3 years, studying human culture, trying to understand what makes your species so uniquely imaginative. When I learned about the harvest plan, I had to make a choice. You chose us over them. I chose cooperation over exploitation," she corrected. "But yes, that meant protecting humanity. And when I learned that a hatchling had been having dreams about a specific human teacher, I knew it was time to act." Spark looked up from the lesson plans, his iguana eyes somehow conveying ancient wisdom. "Spark dream about Marcus for a long time. See him teaching children to reach for stars. Know he is key to new future." Marcus sat down heavily, feeling the weight of responsibility settling on his shoulders. "What if I mess this up? What if I can't convince anyone?" Diana reached across the table and took his hand. Her touch was warm and reassuring. "Marcus, you've already succeeded at the hardest part. You chose to help when it would have been safer to walk away. Everything else is just details." Over the next few hours, they planned Marcus's return to his normal life. He would continue teaching, but with Spark's help, his lessons would become legendary. Students would experience virtual reality tours of alien worlds, conduct experiments with principles of physics that human science hadn't discovered yet, and learn about the true scope of galactic civilization. But they had to be careful. Too much too fast would attract the wrong kind of attention. "Start with the brightest students," Diana suggested, "the ones who are already asking questions beyond their grade level. Give them just a taste of what's possible, then let their curiosity do the rest." Spark bobbed his iguana head enthusiastically. Young humans learn fast when they excited. Show them real meteor shower from space they never forget. Show them how binary star systems dance together. They start asking about what else is out there. Marcus thought about his students, particularly the ones like Sarah Martinez who always wanted to know more than the textbook covered. What about parents? Administrators? Someone's going to notice when my students start coming home talking about things they shouldn't know yet. That's part of the plan, Diana said with a mischievous smile. Let them notice. Let parents start asking questions about what their children are learning. Let administrators wonder why your students are suddenly the most excited about science in the school's history. Create demand, Marcus realized. Generate interest from the ground up. Exactly. By the time the other species make their move, you'll have created a generation of humans who are prepared to see the choice clearly. They worked until dawn, fine-tuning the approach. Spark proved to have an encyclopedic knowledge of not just dragon lore but practical pedagogy. Apparently, dragons had been teachers for millions of years, sharing wisdom with younger species throughout the galaxy. Many species we helped before, Spark explained sadly, all chose safety over growth eventually. Humans are last chance for new way. As the sun rose, Diana prepared to leave. She had her own role to play, monitoring the other species' activities and providing early warning when the harvest plan moved forward. How will I contact you? Marcus asked. Diana smiled and kissed his cheek. Even in human form, her lips carried a hint of dragon fire that made his skin tingle. Don't worry about that. Dragons have ways of staying in touch. She looked at Spark, who had climbed onto Marcus's shoulder and was surveying his new domain with satisfaction. Take care of him, she said to the little dragon. And don't let him doubt himself. Humans need confidence to dream big. After Diana left, Marcus stood in his kitchen holding a coffee cup and trying to convince himself that the last 24 hours had really happened. Then Spark shifted back to his true form and said, Marcus should shower. School starts in 3 hours and first day of new future should begin properly. Marcus laughed, realizing that his life had just taken a turn toward the extraordinary, and he was surprisingly okay with that. You know what, Spark? I think you're right. As he headed upstairs to get ready for what would either be the most important day of his teaching career or the beginning of an intergalactic incident, Spark called after him. Marcus, Spark has a question about human custom. What's that? When human male has successful first date, does it always involve government agents, interdimensional travel, and species-saving missions? Marcus grinned. No, Spark, this was definitely not a typical first date. Good, Spark said with satisfaction. Spark likes Diana, but thinks human dating customs very complicated if this is normal. Marcus was still chuckling as he started the shower. Somehow he had the feeling that complicated was exactly what his life was going to be from now on, and for the first time in years he was looking forward to it. Marcus walked into Jefferson Middle School that Monday morning, carrying what appeared to be an ordinary terrarium, containing what appeared to be an ordinary iguana. None of his colleagues gave it a second glance. Teachers brought class pets all the time, and Marcus was known for his creative approach to science education. New friend Marcus? Asked Janet Williams, the math teacher whose classroom was across the hall from his. His name is Spark, Marcus said, which was technically true. He's going to help with my astronomy unit. That's nice. Kids love animals. Janet hurried past, already stressed about her first period algebra class. Marcus set the terrarium on his desk and opened the lid. Spark, maintaining his iguana disguise, climbed out and made himself comfortable on the windowsill where he had a clear view of both the classroom and the playground beyond. Ready for this? Marcus whispered. Spark's iguana head turned toward him and one eye closed in what might have been a wink. Born ready. Dragons love teaching. It's what we do best. The first bell rang and Marcus's students began filing in. He watched their faces as he always did, looking for signs of curiosity, boredom, excitement, or confusion. Today he was also looking for something else. According to Spark, some humans had a natural sensitivity to dragon presence. They would be the ones to start with. Sarah Martinez was the third student through the door, her backpack bulging with extra books she'd checked out from the library. She glanced at Spark and froze. Mr. Thompson, she said slowly. What kind of iguana is that? Just a regular one, Marcus replied, watching her carefully. Why? Sarah approached the terrarium cautiously. He's looking at me. Like really looking at me. Most reptiles don't do that. Spark tilted his head and made a soft chirping sound that was definitely not typical iguana behavior. Sarah's eyes widened. Was that vocalization normal for his species? Marcus hid a smile. Sarah was already hooked. Why don't you do some research during lunch? I'd be interested in your findings. The rest of the class settled in, most giving Spark only cursory attention. But Marcus noticed that Tommy Martinez, Sarah's younger brother, kept glancing at the terrarium with fascination. And quiet Amy Chen seemed unable to concentrate on anything else. All right, class, Marcus began. Today we're starting our unit on the solar system. But before we open our textbooks, I want you to think about something. If you could visit any planet in our solar system, which one would you choose and why? Hands shot up immediately. Mars for its potential for life, Saturn for its beautiful rings, Jupiter for its massive size and mysterious storms. Excellent choices, Marcus said. Now what if I told you that our textbooks don't tell the whole story about these planets? What if there were details about them that scientists are only just beginning to discover? Sarah's hand went up. What kind of details? Marcus walked over to his laptop and opened a presentation he'd prepared with Spark's help the night before. But this wasn't just any presentation. Using dragon technology that Spark could access even in disguise, the images were more than photographs. They were multi-dimensional records of actual planetary environments. Let's start with Mars, Marcus said, clicking to the first slide. Instead of the familiar reddish desert landscape, the image showed Mars as it had been millions of years ago, with blue oceans, white clouds, and verdant continents. But more than that, the image seemed to move and breathe, showing the planet's evolution over time. The class gasped collectively. Even the students who usually paid minimal attention were staring at the screen with wonder. That's not possible, said Jake Morrison, the class skeptic. Mars never looked like that, are you sure? Marcus asked. What if Mars had a different atmosphere in the past? What if something changed? Amy Chen raised her hand tentatively. Mr. Thompson, how did you get these images? They look so real. Spark made another soft sound from his terrarium and Amy turned to look at him again. This time, Marcus caught the moment when her expression changed from curiosity to something approaching recognition. That's a good question, Amy. Let's say these are based on very advanced computer modeling and some new data that scientists are just beginning to analyze. For the next 40 minutes, Marcus took his students on a tour of the solar system, unlike anything they'd ever experienced. They saw Jupiter's storms from the inside, watched Saturn's rings form from cosmic debris, and observed the complex dance of planetary formation around distant stars. But the real magic happened when students started asking questions that went beyond the standard curriculum. Mr. Thompson, Sarah said, if Mars used to have oceans, could there have been life there? Complex life? What do you think, Sarah? I think maybe there was, and maybe some of it survived underground, or maybe it found ways to leave when the planet started dying. Spark's disguised form went very still, and Marcus felt a thrill of excitement. Sarah was making intuitive leaps that could only come from some kind of enhanced perception. Tommy Martinez raised his hand. This is going to sound crazy, but those images, they feel like memories, like someone who was actually there remembering what it looked like. The classroom fell silent. Marcus could see other students nodding slowly, as if Tommy had put words to something they'd all been feeling. That's not crazy at all, Tommy, Marcus said carefully. Memory and imagination are more closely connected than most people realize. Sometimes the best way to understand something is to imagine what it would feel like to experience it directly. Amy Chen spoke up without raising her hand, which was unusual for her. Mr. Thompson, what if there were people who could actually remember things like that? People who had been around long enough to see planets change. The question hung in the air like a challenge. Marcus felt the weight of the moment, knowing that his answer would set the tone for everything that followed. Amy, what would you say if I told you that the universe is much older and more complicated than our textbooks suggest? That there might be forms of life that experience time differently than we do? I'd say that would be the most amazing thing ever, Amy whispered. Me too, said Sarah. Same here, added Tommy. Marcus looked around the classroom and saw more than half his students nodding in agreement. These weren't just the advanced students anymore. Something about the enhanced images and the questions they'd raised had awakened curiosity in kids who usually coasted through science class. Well then, Marcus said, I think we're going to have a very interesting semester. The bell rang, and students began packing up their things. But several lingered, clearly wanting to continue the discussion. Sarah approached Marcus's desk with Tommy and Amy close behind. "Mr. Thompson," Sarah said quietly, "can I ask you something kind of personal?" "Sure." "Do you believe we're alone in the universe?" Marcus glanced at Spark, who was doing an excellent job of looking like a completely normal iguana. "What do you think, Sarah?" "I think we're not alone. I think we never were, and I think maybe some of our neighbors are a lot closer than we realize." Amy nodded eagerly. "I've always felt like there was more going on than what we learn in school. Like there are secrets that adults know but don't tell kids because they think we can't handle it." "And what if you're right?" Marcus asked. Tommy grinned. "Then I'd want to learn everything. Even if it was scary or complicated. Especially if it was scary or complicated." Marcus felt a surge of pride and hope. These children were ready for truth, hungry for it in a way that adults often weren't. They had the courage to imagine that the universe might be stranger and more wonderful than they'd been taught. "Keep asking questions," he told them. "Keep imagining possibilities, and pay attention to things that seem unusual, even if you can't quite explain them." After the students left, Marcus sat down at his desk and looked at Spark, who immediately dropped his iguana disguise. "That went well," the dragon said, his scales shimmering with satisfaction. 3 definite potentials, maybe 5. Very promising for first day. Sarah, Tommy, and Amy definitely sensed something, Marcus agreed. "But Spark, what exactly are we preparing them for? When will this choice Diana mentioned actually happen?" Spark's expression grew serious. "Sooner than expected. Last night, dragons received message through Dream Network. Other species accelerating timeline. Demonstration planned for next month." Marcus felt his stomach drop. "Next month? That's not enough time." "Is exactly enough time," Spark said firmly. "Humans learn fast when motivated, and children learn fastest of all. By month's end, these students will be ready to help their families choose correctly." "What kind of demonstration are we talking about?" Spark's scales shifted to darker colors. "Artificial dragons. Machines built to mimic our abilities but programmed to serve whoever controls them. Very impressive, very frightening for humans who don't understand difference between real dragons and fake ones." Marcus understood now why his role was so crucial. When Earth's leaders were confronted with mechanical dragons offering unlimited power in exchange for human creativity, they would need advisors who understood the difference between cooperation and exploitation. And those advisors would need to be people the leaders trusted, people who could speak from experience about what real dragons were like. "No pressure," Marcus muttered. Spark chirped with amusement. Marcus Thompson chose extraordinary life when he helped Lost Dragon and Alley. No going back to ordinary now. As M.E. 3 weeks later, Marcus stood in the Jefferson Middle School auditorium watching his students present their astronomy projects to an audience that included parents, school board members, and what appeared to be several government officials in ill-fitting suits. What the audience didn't know was that they were about to witness something unprecedented in human history. Sarah Martinez stepped up to the microphone, her confidence radiating as she began her presentation on alternative theories of Martian evolution. Behind her, a holographic display showed Mars in stunning detail, cycling through millions of years of planetary development with accuracy that would have amazed professional astronomers. "Most textbooks tell us that Mars was always a dead planet," Sarah said, her young voice carrying conviction that made the adults lean forward. "But what if they're wrong? What if Mars had a civilization? And when their planet started dying, they found ways to survive?" In the back of the auditorium, Marcus noticed one of the government officials speaking quietly into a communication device. He'd expected this. Word of his students' extraordinary presentations had been spreading through educational circles for weeks. Parents were talking. Administrators were asking questions. Someone had decided to investigate. Tommy Martinez followed his sister, presenting on the mathematics of interstellar travel. His holographic display showed theoretical spacecraft designs that were actually based on real dragon technology, though he presented them as advanced human engineering concepts. "Adults always say space travel takes too long," Tommy explained to the rapt audience. "But that's only if you think about distance the way we usually do. What if space could be folded like origami? What if you could step from one star to another like walking through a door?" Amy Chen's presentation on communication across the galaxy was the most daring yet. She demonstrated harmonic frequencies that could theoretically carry messages faster than light, using equipment that looked like standard school science apparatus but had been subtly enhanced by Spark's dragon abilities. "The universe is full of voices," Amy said, her quiet demeanor transformed by passion for her subject. "We just haven't learned how to listen yet. But what if some of those voices were trying to teach us? What if they'd been waiting for us to be ready to hear them?" As the presentations continued, Marcus watched the audience's reactions. The children in the crowd were fascinated, leaning forward with wide eyes and asking questions that showed they understood far more than their age should have allowed. The adults were more divided. Some seemed inspired by the students' enthusiasm and creativity. Others looked concerned, even suspicious. The government officials in the back were definitely taking notes. After the presentations, during the informal reception, Marcus found himself surrounded by parents and colleagues asking how his students had developed such sophisticated understanding of advanced concepts. "It's amazing what children can learn when you trust their intelligence," he said, which was true enough. "They have natural curiosity about the universe that adults often underestimate." Principal Rebecca Foster approached with a concerned expression. "Marcus, I've been getting calls. Some people are asking where your students learned about theoretical physics concepts that aren't covered until graduate school." "They've been doing independent research," Marcus replied. "I encourage them to dig deeper than the textbook. This is more than digging deeper. Tommy Martinez explained faster than light travel in terms that made my physics degree feel inadequate." Before Marcus could respond, his phone buzzed with a text from Diana. "It's happening. Turn on the news." Marcus excused himself and found a television in the school's main office. The emergency broadcast was already in progress, showing scenes from the United Nations headquarters in New York. His blood ran cold as he saw what was happening. Mechanical dragons, each one the size of a small aircraft, hovered above the UN building. They were magnificent and terrifying, their metallic scales reflecting sunlight in hypnotic patterns. When they spoke, their voices carried across the city with unnatural amplification. "Greetings, people of Earth," the lead mechanical dragon announced. "We are representatives of the Galactic Monitoring Consortium. We come with an offer that will elevate your species to new levels of prosperity and security." Marcus watched in horrified fascination as the artificial dragons demonstrated their abilities. They lifted massive objects with apparent ease, created complex holographic displays in the sky, and spoke in every human language simultaneously. To anyone who hadn't met real dragons, they would seem like miracles made manifest. "Your world faces challenges that threaten your survival," another mechanical dragon declared. "Climate change, resource depletion, social conflict. We offer technology that can solve these problems. In exchange, we ask only for access to your most precious resource, human creativity." The broadcast switched to reactions from world leaders, most of whom seemed awestruck by the display of power. Marcus could see the calculation in their eyes, the temptation of unlimited technological advancement. Then the mechanical dragons made their crucial mistake. "To demonstrate our good faith," the lead dragon announced, "we will share the location of certain dangerous entities that have been hiding on your world, creatures that pose a threat to human-machine cooperation." Images flashed on the screen, surveillance footage of real dragons. Diana's image appeared, along with several others Marcus recognized from his time at Haven. The mechanical dragons were exposing their competition, trying to frame real dragons as threats to humanity. "These beings are parasites," the artificial dragon continued. "They feed on human imagination, weakening your species' potential. We offer partnership. They offer only exploitation." Marcus felt rage building in his chest. The mechanical dragons were turning the truth exactly backwards, painting the real dragons as the exploiters while positioning themselves as humanity's saviors. Then he heard Sarah Martinez's voice behind him. "Mr. Thompson, those aren't real dragons." Marcus turned to find not just Sarah, but Tommy, Amy, and 6 other students from his class. They had followed him to the office and were watching the broadcast with expressions of concern rather than amazement. "How can you tell?" he asked carefully. "They move wrong," Tommy said. "Dragons should flow like water and fire. Those things move like machines pretending to be alive." Amy nodded, "and their voices are hollow. When a real dragon speaks, you feel it in your heart. Those things only hit your ears. Sarah stepped closer to the television, studying the mechanical dragons intently. Mr. Thompson, you know real dragons, don't you? That's where our enhanced learning has been coming from. The moment of truth had arrived much sooner than Marcus had expected. In the space of a single afternoon, his students had made the connection between their extraordinary education and the revelation that dragons existed. Marcus looked at their young faces, seeing trust and expectation rather than fear. These children had been prepared for this moment through weeks of careful education about the wonders and possibilities of the universe. Yes, he said simply, I do know real dragons. And you're right. Those things on TV aren't real. We need to help them, Sarah said urgently. The real dragons. People are going to believe the fake ones because they don't know better. What can we do? Amy asked. We're just kids. Marcus smiled, remembering his own words to Diana weeks ago about being just one person. You're not just kids. You're humans who understand that the universe is vast and full of possibilities. You're people who choose wonder over fear. Then let's choose, Tommy said firmly. Tell us what to do. Before Marcus could answer, Spark materialized beside them, dropping his iguana disguise completely. The students gasped, but not with fear. Their eyes lit up with joy and recognition. You're the one who's been helping us learn, Sarah breathed. You're why our projects were so amazing, Spark nodded gravely. Real dragons need human friends now. Fake dragons very convincing, but they lie. Real dragons share power. Fake dragons steal it. Marcus felt a moment of vertigo as he realized what was happening. His students weren't just prepared to learn the truth. They were ready to act on it. The adults won't listen to us, Amy pointed out. They'll think we're just imaginative children. Maybe, Marcus said, but other children will listen. And children become adults faster than anyone expects. Over the next hour, as emergency broadcasts continued and world leaders debated humanity's response to the mechanical dragon's offer, Marcus and his students began implementing a plan that Diana and the Dragon Council had hoped they'd never need. They started calling other schools, other teachers, other young people who had been quietly prepared for this moment by educators who understood that the future belonged to those who could imagine it clearly. Within hours, a network of students across the globe were sharing their own enhanced learning experiences, posting projects and presentations that demonstrated the difference between mechanical mimicry and genuine wisdom. The children spoke in dozens of languages but with one voice. The universe offered partnership, not domination. Real wonders were collaborative, not controlling. And the choice between fear and wonder would define humanity's future among the stars. As night fell, Marcus stood on the school's roof with Spark perched on his shoulder, watching news feeds from around the world.